It's Thursday, the 12th of May, 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Amyler.
Good morning, Michael.
All right, Sean, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Story number 1, the 2 federal leaders, Scott Morrison and Anthony Albanese, faced off again last night in the third debate. It wasn't quite as raucous as Sunday night's debate, though it would have had to be pretty bad to beat that one.
Very true, very true. Again, the debate covered a range of topics, with Prime Minister Scott Morrison focusing on defence and security in the economy, while Anthony Albanese focused on social issues, including childcare and aged care. The cost of living got a good run as well. It's becoming a major election issue, which doesn't necessarily play well for the government. Michael, after watching the campaign so far and the debates, it seems that many people want to vote for Anthony Albanese but aren't really sure that he's up to it. Many don't want to vote for Scott Morrison but fear kicking him out. The polls certainly favour Labor, and Mr Albanese's party is well ahead of where they were 3 years ago when Bill Shorten lost that election. But Mr Morrison is nothing if not a fighter.
Sean, story number 2 today is all about consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment has tumbled. It's now back to its lowest level in almost 2 years. Maybe just a little bit of an explainer as well, what consumer sentiment actually is.
Okay, so consumer sentiment is exactly what it sounds like. It's how people feel, and the Westpac Melbourne Institute Index of Consumer Sentiment is the best measure. It fell by 6% this month on the back of rising interest rates and cost of living pressures. Now, the survey took place in the week the Reserve Bank lifted the official cash rate. What the consumer sentiment survey shows is that rate rises don't just impact people's mortgage repayments, they also impact how people feel, how confident they are, how wealthy they feel. And what it shows is that rate rise has really hurt that, which of course will feed through to spending in the economy. So it's bad news.
Okay, all right. Story number 3, Sean, is a pretty strange one, actually, and it involves one of Australia's biggest companies, biotech CSL. It's had a win in court, which might allow for Mexican nationals to give blood in the US.
Yeah, so CSL is essentially a blood collection business. About 85% of its revenue comes that way. It's won an appeal against a US court decision that will now allow plasma companies to challenge Customs and Border Protection bans on Mexican nationals donating blood plasma. Let me unfold that a little bit. CSL has about 15 collection centres in the United States within walking distance from the Mexican border. So correct Mexican visa holders could, even during COVID, cross the border, give blood, get paid, and then walk home. But it was stopped by this ban. While plasma donations from Mexicans are still unable to restart, this court win paves the way for a change to the ban. In fact, CSL's share price was up 2% yesterday after the news.
Okay, story number 4, Sean. During the pandemic, we've heard of a lot of companies doing well, a lot of companies doing not so well, and then some companies actually coming as a bit of a surprise, as in what actually happened to them during COVID. I'm surprised by this one. Sales of Red Bull, the energy drink, surged.
Yeah, Red Bull's not really a stay-at-home sort of drink, is it?
No, I've never thought of it. It's the kind of thing that you either buy at a pub or at a service station.
Yeah, pub service, that nightclubs, and a lot of those were closed or restricted during the pandemic. But people bought Red Bull basically from Coles and Woolies. That's where they made all their sales. That's according to the Australian newspaper. Last year, sales from Red Bull Australia products hit almost $250 million, which was up 16% on the year before. Energy drinks is the fastest growing category of beverages in the country. Red Bull is the market leader in those, so it's doing really well, thanks, of course, to some pretty big ad spend.
All right, last story, Sean. Pretty emotional one for story number 5, particularly if you're a music lover. The iPod is no more. After 21 years, Apple is no longer manufacturing the original music device, which really transformed the way people listen to music.
It really did. You could download 1,000 songs and off you went, replaced the thing that you attached to your arm, the Walkman or whatever it used to be. It was, in more recent years, it's been mostly replaced by the iPhone and then Apple Music. But, Michael, I've still got my original iPod, got to tell you that. Look, it was originally developed to encourage the purchase of Macintosh computers, but it took on a life of its own and pretty much started Apple's reinvention to becoming the biggest company in the world. Apple has sold about 450 million iPods over the past 21 years, including, surprisingly, 3 million last year. Anyway, manufacturing is about to stop.
I'd love to know what's on your iPod. I reckon it's full of like Bill Haley and the Comets and the Andrews sisters and things like that.
Oh, what an insult.
Sorry. All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Thursday, the 12th of May, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, then you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform, along with a lot of interviews and other interesting things. And don't forget, if you're a business owner wanting to talk directly to thousands of people interested in finance and business news, then why not get in touch? Head to fearandgreed.com.au and drop us a line. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.